Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Southpaws, the show for leftists who love sports. As always, I am your host, Adam, and I am joined by my co-hosts.
I'm Maurice.
And I'm Nathan. Kratom time down the hatch.
We got a big show for you this week. They're just getting bigger each week, better each week, building off of last week. Let's get right into this week's Power Play. All right. Well, I said we were building off of last week. We have an update for you. Tony Dangelo, that freaking Goomba, he has been released by the New York Rangers. He was allegedly fighting with the goalie. He gives up a lot of goals, a lot of shots on goal, a lot of easy shots, as we saw last week. Presumably, that's what the fight is about. And also, allegedly, he has been a racist prick to Keandre Miller, the rookie defenseman. Rangers and Miller's agent did deny that Tony stole the puck for the first goal. Big deal in hockey. Some people have done some research and seen that it is conspicuous that Keandre Miller is the only person to not have had a picture tweeted with the puck. So keep posted on that. Tony, by Tony, I mean Tony, aka New York Rangers fan 923-60244. He took back to Twitter after a little bit of a hiatus, took a little break last week, to claim that cancel culture is at it again. Possibly we have another twist, though, to this story that has already many twists, many turns. Twitter user Mr. Booth _7 claims to have been in a text conversation with Tony, where he tricked him into believing he was heading to Vancouver. Tony sent screenshots of a conversation that he was having with his agent, saying it wasn't true, and with him claiming that Mr. Booth should go fuck himself. One little snag is the text conversation appeared fresh. So I know there are people out there who think it's not the burner. They think it's a joke. Guys, what do we think of all this drama?
Yeah, well, I think it's really exciting always to see where the Tony D'Angelo chronicles go. But I do think that the NHL should watch out for cancel culture, because if they're going to start canceling all of their racist white athletes that are in the NHL, at some point they're not going to have an NHL anymore. So that's something they need to be cautious of. They're setting a very dangerous precedent moving forward.
I agree. I think this is just another example of conservative athletes being censored. And it could happen to anyone. It could happen to you. You know, I think if you are a completely average NHL hockey player having the worst start to a season of your career, and you get into a fight with your own goalie, you will be canceled. And that is a warning to all of us. It should send shivers down all of our spines.
Yes, very much looking forward to Barry Weiss and Tony D'Angelo joining forces on the pages of the New York Post. All right, well, we talked about hockey, some problems there. Let's get back into baseball, the most problematic sport of them all. I'm not just talking about that tweet that was going around about what is your most problematic views on baseball. Most of that stuff was good, actually. But what we are talking about is Nolan Arenato's trade to the St. Louis Cardinals. This is generating a lot of heat and boos from the Twitter crowd. The Rockies have gained from the Cardinals, if you want to call it gaining, 4 prospects, of which only one is a top 100 ranked MLB prospect. And then one MLB ready player, he's played 2 years in the league, Austin Gomber, who can be called at best okay. Not content to just fuck up on the talent exchange, the Rockies, for some reason, decided to just pay the Cardinals for basically everything in Nolan's contract until he would opt out in 2 years, or could opt out in 2 years. Does not make any fucking sense at all. Don't really know why they traded him if they were just going to pay for a lot of his contract still. The Rockies fans are, of course, very upset. They are in mourning. They are seen here grieving in front of Coors Field. The owner even is grieving, apparently, considering himself a fan. He has nothing. He could not have done anything about this. He has no control over the situation. He says, I understand how they feel. To be quite honest, I would probably feel the same way. In fact, I do even feel the same way. Guys, what do we think of this? It's fucking awful, obviously. What is the worst part?
Yeah, I mean, the MLB should have probably vetoed this trade. That's how egregious it was. We know what poverty franchises are, right? Like, I'm willing to now declare MLB a poverty sport, a poverty league, right? I think every move they do is calculated to make baseball less fun. In 30 years, baseball will be the 5th most popular sport in America. It'll be behind fucking soccer, and they will deserve every bit of what they've sowed.
Yeah, poverty, that's a good point. And it really makes me feel bad for those poor billionaire owners of MLB and of the Rockies. But one thing that stood out to me that the Rockies GM Jeff Bridich said is that he said that the Rockies are not rebuilding right now, which to me is just absolutely absurd because what it reminds me of too is all these MLB teams saying that they're broke, they got no money, and it's all because of COVID. And it's just like the whole MLB world is really pretending that their fans are unable to comprehend what's going on here. That we don't get the ruse. But the jig is up. Like it's unfathomable what they're doing.
You don't say it's a total rebuild when you're not doing a total rebuild. It's not something you say out loud.
Well, we want to take like a little second in this power play to celebrate. A very exciting thing happened this week. Layshia Clarendon, the WNBA Players Association vice president, as well as guard on the New York Liberty, they announced that they had received top surgery to affirm their gender identity. Clarendon is the first trans WNBA player. They described feeling a wide variety of emotions. They were first hesitant to share the news, but they wanted to make sure that, quote, trans people know and see that we've always existed and no one can erase us. And as also explained that they felt freed by a sense of gender euphoria. So pretty cool stuff. The WNBA Players Association and her team, they both sent out statements of support, with the Players Association especially voicing a commitment to pursuing inclusion of gender identity and expression in its work in building up the league. So guys, obviously this is very cool. This is very exciting. What were your feelings when you saw this news?
Well, first, I love the statement that trans folks always have and always will exist. And I appreciate it, especially coming from someone like Layshia, who has always publicly affirmed their blackness. And I think that's really important because, so often we hear about the violence that is exhibited towards Black trans people. But it is important. Of course, it's important to address that violence and to talk about it. But it is also, I think, really important and awesome that we can celebrate a victory for Black trans people.
Yeah, it's great. I loved the statement of support from their team, Layshia's team, and the union and the WNBA. It's a rare case of solidarity all across a major professional league. It's been kind of amazing to see the progress of the WNBA. I remember going to games, Cleveland Rocker games. They no longer exist, with my mother, who is gay, and it's amazing to see where we've come to. And let's keep going.
Yeah, I feel like I gotta take an overtime here because this is one of my passionate passions. So I'm gonna slam the button.
The new album by Adam Villman, Passionate Passions.
Exactly. Yeah, one thing that I took away the most from this was that it was incredible in a climate where you see right-wing freaks like the Montana legislature today taking women's sports and using them as they've always been used throughout history in a way to enforce gender in women and in men. And it was just so fucking great to see none of that bullshit enter the conversation from the WNBA, from the Players Association, from the teammates. That just seems like such a huge victory for the league and for us as sports fans that was free of that. So, all right, more basketball. The bubble is heating up. Well, I guess it's not really the bubble anymore, but we're heating up regardless. LeBron somehow in a parallelogram is getting in fights with fans courtside in a parallelogram. We got this video of a woman who has since been dubbed Courtside Karen. She's yelling, pointing, coming on the court, maskless. LeBron kind of, I don't know. He didn't seem to get in it too bad, but he's amused. LeBron did answer after the game when asked. He said that this is what the players need. They need the engagement with the fans. He also dropped a tweet. Courtside Karen was mad with a lot of laughing emojis. Always great. LeBron loves the emojis. Karen did hit back. She said that LeBron called her husband old steroid ass. And she appears to be old steroid ass. And they were tossed right after this. LeBron stuck this knife in the back. And then she also hit social media with this explanation.
I will check him, whether it's LeBron James or a fucking bum on the street.
Karen did later dial it back and apologize for removing her mask and blamed her, quote, natural instinct to stand up for the man I love for this incident. So, guys, what was the best part? This was a crazy turn of events late at night. What were you following?
First of all, you can't be doing shit like this during Black History Month. That is what stood out the most for me. So that is obviously a no-no. However, I'm not going to come down on her too hard because at the end of the day, I feel like I would have done the exact same thing. We got to remember the ages here. She's 25. He's 50 years old. If LeBron James was threatening or attacking my extremely rich sugar daddy husband, I would also react in the very same way. I would protect him because at the end of the day, what is it about? It's about securing the bag, securing your future. And that's what she was doing. That's what this is about.
Yeah, I just want to congratulate LeBron. When I think of LeBron, I think of like a normie guy, not known as a big trash talker. And it's not like a revolutionary insult, but old steroid ass is pretty solid. It's pretty solid from a guy who's not known for his trash talking. If we can pull up a picture of this 50-year-old man, he looks like a radiated hamburger meat. He's out on steroids. This was a good call from LeBron, and I want to give him props for a solid jab. That was my takeaway. Didn't expect it out of him. Good job.
Well, Nathan said the LeBron incident was unexpected, but we got another piece of unexpected news this week. EA Sports bringing back the much loved, the much remembered NCAA football game. There's been campaigns for years to bring this back after the franchise lost its license. May or may not have been related to a lawsuit filed by the former UCLA basketball player Ed O'Bannon over unpaid likeness representation. The NCAA does try to say that they just didn't feel like making video games anymore. There's very weird coincidence there. What is very weird coincidence about this instance of the game coming back, though, is that aspect has not been settled yet. As we know, the NCAA has paused deliberations in a vote on how to settle athlete likeness compensation. And EA is announcing that the game will be filled with fake players, and they are strictly buying the licenses from the schools. So, guys, what do we think about this going forward? Is this a good step? Is this a bad step? What do we think?
It is very interesting, like you said, that this game will probably not have the NCAA logo on it. It will not be NCAA endorsed, which is interesting. We've talked about potential breakaways from the colleges and the major conferences from the NCAA. And it really feels like the NCAA has entered sort of a Rudy Giuliani Four Seasons total landscaping kind of version of itself, where it's on the end days here. It maybe is a sign of that.
You know, we talk a lot about the sacrificial nature of sports, and Rutgers guard Geo Baker mentioned something, and he said that, you know, the players having to sign over their likeness to the school is like modern day slavery, and I couldn't agree more with that. I think it's especially exacerbated and highlighted at a time like now, where they are putting their lives on the line a lot more literally and a lot more immediately because of COVID. But they're also got to remember like what they're missing out on, the sort of lives that they're not allowed to live because they're playing in a sport during a pandemic. And at the end of it, when all these guys make a bunch of money off the backs of these players, the players themselves are going to end up with, for the most part, for most of them, nothing.
Yeah, great point. As we saw last week with our interview.
And I would like to hit that button. I want to hit that button.
He's hitting a button.
I just want there for this NCAA game, you know, to have accuracy, you know, kind of like the NBA 2K, my career thing, where it's kind of behind the scenes, you know. And I think there should be, given the state of college football, there should be choices like, do I send my player back in after he's been clearly concussed, or do I accept this bag of money from Lane Kiffin, or do I eat peanut butter for dinner? I think these are the choices that players should be given to make a realistic college football game. That's my 2 cents on the story mode.
Yeah, hopefully they get better voice acting than 2K does.
That's also bad, yeah.
Well, it's the 6th topic. It's the end. What's left? We have this week, but
the big game.
It's
the big game.
Freaking Sunday, baby. It, of course, being
the big game.
Shit will be very stupid. Football is obviously incredibly stupid. It will be even stupider this week. Somehow, it's already full of COVID scares, ill-advised travel plans. Both the teams are not allowed in Tampa for 2 days, so this is shocking that it has already happened. But Kansas City players were apparently all lined up getting haircuts from the same person. When mid-cut, it was announced the barber had COVID. So the barber was removed, leaving Daniel Kilgore possibly with a half head of hair, as seen here. He announced on his Twitter. This is, of course, though, it may be stupid, but it is the serious.
The big game.
Because the liberals were back in power. You know, they fixed racism. They fixed the pandemic carnage. There's no more. So we are going to be seeing the healthcare heroes flown in by Bob Kraft to sit next to the regular people who are attending
the big game
in a pandemic. Not to be outdone by this, the Resistance Twitter hero, viral sensation, Amanda Gorman, will be reading a poem at some point. I don't know if at the beginning, the end, the middle. We don't know yet. Guys, what do we think? What are we most excited for in this?
The big game.
Are you planning on watching it? Don't say the commercials.
Well, I'm most excited. I actually got a leak of Miss Gorman's poem that she'll be reading, and it's really exciting stuff. It says here, we're not here to cause no trouble. We're just here to do the super spreader shuffle. What? I think that'll be, I mean, I can't wait for what's next of the poem. What about you guys?
You are not going to put this on poor Amanda Gorman. And I refuse to disparage Amanda Gorman, especially not during Black History Month. Instead, I will turn my ire first to the Democratic Party and the tokenism that they used Amanda Gorman for back at the inauguration. That was a very clear example of tokenism, and I think it served a very clear purpose. However, I don't know what the hell's going on with the NFL. I'm not sure why they felt the need to get Amanda Gorman, because
the big game
is they never lack Black performers at
the big game.
So like I get like bringing her into politics, but into
the big game
it doesn't make sense to me. We could have done without that.
Grace, no overtimes for you this week?
I was succinct. this week. I
Oh.
was short, quick. I feel like I got everything
You can
out.
just take
that I
one
need
on
to get
any
out.
You
topic.
can, you
Take
can
one.
literally hit the button and talk about whatever is on your mind.
Man, all right, this is gonna be nasty. Okay, give me.
All right, we're getting a 30 seconds of overtime on whatever's on Maurice's mind.
You know, speaking of, this is not going to be sports related. I'm sorry, guys, but speaking of the Democratic Party, speaking of the liberals, I do just want to real quick just sort of state what the Biden election or how it's made me feel, because I'm someone who grew up during the Obama years. I didn't really come to political consciousness until, I was 18, 19, 20. So by then, Obama was still the president for just a little bit. And I got to say, like, the Trump election hurt. Like, it sucked. Especially as I was 20, 21 years old. That really sucked. Biden being elected, though, is genuinely one of the most awful experiences that I've ever had in my life as a Black person, because it's just like all these people around me who for so many years, like they sort of like had these decent sort of politics. And now all of a sudden, like, it just like all this shit goes out the window, and it makes me feel completely dehumanized. It makes me feel like I was nothing more than a political pawn, which, in thinking of the liberals and Democratic Party, that's basically how they treat Black folks.
Yeah, it sucked.
Good supplemental.
We need to have just an explosion. Yeah, it sucked. Next segment.